Nearly a year has passed since the Warsaw Stock Exchange became the majority shareholder of its Armenian counterpart. The objective of the deal was to boost transparency and compliance and attract foreign investors with the objective of connecting Armenia to the Western capital market. So far, despite being in the early stages, the project shows signs of optimism, with local currency bonds attracting around $500 million in foreign capital, up from near zero a year earlier. AMX's revenue grew to 6.1 million Polish zlotys in the third quarter of 2023, marking a 200,000 zloty increase from the second 3 months of the year, and generated a net profit of 1.1 million zlotys. The Warsaw Stock Exchange's ascent over the past 3 decades to becoming a leader in the Central and Eastern European region showcases a prime example of the rise of an open market economy. Acquiring a 65% stake for 9.6 million zlotys, the WSE intends to guide Armenia towards becoming a more investor-friendly market, after which it could shift to other countries in the region, such as Georgia.
Well, joining us now in the studio is the CEO of the Armenian Securities Exchange himself, Mr. Hayk Yeganyan. Sir, welcome. Thanks so much for taking the time to visit us here today.
Thank you for the invitation.
All right. Well, let's start with what brings you here to Warsaw this time. I heard that there is a lot of cooperation right now between the Armenian Stock Exchange and the Warsaw Stock Exchange.
Well, certainly there is a huge cooperation because, as you know, it has been already 1 year that the Warsaw Stock Exchange has become the majority shareholder of AMX, Armenia Securities Exchange, and Warsaw Stock Exchange owns 65%. Which means by default they are in charge of the management. So
that's right. And how have things changed since the Warsaw Stock Exchange took control?
Well, it has been an interesting journey for the last 11 months because we have introduced lots of new projects, cooperation projects, and we have a separate integration project. I would say that integrating Warsaw Stock Exchange with Armenia Securities Exchange so that we can facilitate cross-listing and dual listing opportunities so that we can integrate Armenian capital market to the Polish capital market and ultimately to the Western capital market through Poland. And this is one of the major projects, I would say, which requires 1 to 2-3 years. It's a legal integration, technical integration, which is a heavy thing to be done, but we have already started it, and hopefully it will be accomplished very soon. But usually we come to Warsaw for business meetings, trying to promote Armenia, trying to promote the Armenian capital market throughout the Polish investors, throughout the Polish financial institutions, and not only the Polish ones, the international ones who have a presence in Poland, because we see Poland as a bridge which will connect Armenia to the Western capital market. And from time to time we have a meeting with the senior management, we exchange the ideas, we update each other with the ongoing projects, intelligence exchange, know-how exchange, well, standard business.
Yeah, of course. And actually, Mr. Dietl is a friend of the show as well. The cooperation with Mr. Dietl, is that going all right as well?
Certainly, it's an amazing cooperation. Well, thanks to him, that I would say, and thanks to lots of colleagues who have been standing behind this idea, and from KPTW as well, Michal Stepniewski, and the guys who introduced this cooperation, and Mr. Dietl supported it, believed it from the early days, supported the transaction, and is still supporting it fully, and he's well engaged with, I would say, well, it's a fascinating engagement level from the senior management of GPW, and they're really willing to help us to build the capital market and conduct this integration project. Poland has been a very interesting country for Armenia from the Armenian standpoint because we have a similar inherent history. The history can go back 700 years with Polish-Armenian diaspora, Armenians living in Poland, the integration of Armenians in Polish economy, politics, society, which was somehow maybe a few hundred years ago was not much spoken. But coming to these fresh historical events of 30 years we both have been in the transition mood, transition economies, and Poland has been one of the most successful, if not the most successful, transition economies.
That's right. In Armenia now itself, Armenia is trying to shift further to the west, moving away from sort of the Russian sphere of influence.
We have all chosen to become open market economies, all of the countries, and they're moving towards the capitalism. And it's very great that we have this opportunity to learn from the ones who did it successfully, and that is the Polish economy. And that is why I would say it's not just a standard cooperation or a standard equity investment into the company, it's a wider cooperation in a sense that it's a know-how exchange, intelligence exchange, experience exchange.
That's right. And I wanted to ask you specifically about technology. I mean, being a new player, so to speak, there's also advantages to that. A lot of the older players, they have old technology, and it's very difficult to switch to something new. But you have the ability, really, to start fresh with new technology. Could you tell us a little bit about that and what you're doing? What are the plans for the future along with the Warsaw Stock Exchange?
Yeah, very good point. You are right. We are small, we are fresh, we are a newcomer, and we don't have the inherent technology, which usually is the major problem and challenge for the long-lasting financial institutions who have inherited their old technology, and it's very difficult to migrate. In our case, we are one of the rarest exchanges and depositories who have developed their core trading platform, state-of-the-art, which enables also the retail investors to trade by downloading the application for AMX Trader. You can go to Google Play Store, Apple Store, and download it, open a brokerage account, and trade by using the technology provided by the exchange itself. At the same time, we have successfully managed to build up a software for the custody. Custody is the place where you keep your securities. So you keep the securities, you transfer it to the exchange for trading, and then you bring them back. So we have also enabled investors to create online custody accounts, to manage their custody accounts through the phone. Mm-hmm. So it's beneficial, a UBO level, kind of ultimate beneficial owner level access to the custody. This is also, I might dare to say, a revolutionary project because generally all the custodians globally are large, massive B2B institutions. And it hasn't been widely used, the idea that a beneficial owner can have a custody account. So we have developed these two projects. And you are right, the fact that we are fresh, we built it from scratch, helped us a lot because we had the freedom to choose the vendors of different modules and technologies or build in-house whatever was missing at a relatively price or cheaper price rather than you would build something upon an old technology.
Exactly. All right. And so now let's look at the numbers. In terms of institutional investors and retail investors, as you mentioned, it is a lot easier for retail investors to invest right now. What numbers are we looking at, and what kind of projections are we looking at for the future?
Well, I would start actually from the institutionals because this is the most important thing for any capital market, and then it goes to the retails. For example, one of the outcomes of this cooperation with Warsaw Stock Exchange, we can say the presence of foreign investors in our country, especially in the sovereign local currency bonds. So, for example, if 1.5 years ago we would have almost zero investors, institutional investors from foreign countries, now we have more than $500 million equivalent of investments into local currency sovereign bonds, predominantly from, I would say, like Western capital markets. And we think that maybe one of the reasons is also the fact that the capital market operator is operated or is owned by the Western institution, which provides more trust to the investors especially in the case of custodying the assets, because when they buy the asset, they have to keep it in Armenia, which means that if you are a compliant institution to the Western standards, it creates more trust towards the investors. Retail is a new project for us. We just started it, and we just launched it. We have almost 10,000 users of our custody software, and it enables electronic voting. So if if a stock is traded on our exchange, any participant who is a shareholder, who is an investor into the stock, can participate in electronic voting through this application. So we have one of the local banks who is listed on our exchange using this platform for electronic voting of shareholders meeting. Then we just had another IPO actually conducted this month, Team Telecom, a telecom company in Armenia, and they also kind of showed huge interest towards our electronic voting application. So we'll have more and more users definitely, and we are looking forward to expand these IT solutions towards other countries, to Europe, and not only, also to the regional countries.
That's right, and looking at the region itself, it's found itself in an interesting position right now with the shift, the geopolitical shifts occurring. I think it's a very interesting place to be right now, isn't it?
Well, it is, especially if you look at the economic indicators. Last year we had over 12% GDP growth. This year we're going to have hopefully a 7% and more GDP growth. Economically, it's quite interesting. It's in the central point of global kind of players. It has a vital role in geopolitics. It's the crossroad of geopolitics, I would say.
It certainly is, isn't it?
Well, let's hope that it will be always interesting.
Exactly. Well, it's always interesting. Unfortunately, it's interesting not always in the most positive of ways, but it always is interesting. It's true. So now let's hope that it'll be interesting in a positive way, at least for the next few years. What kind of opportunities are there for the future, and in terms of cooperation also with the GPX, and in terms of cross-listing opportunities?
Look, as we just mentioned, the region is developing economically, which means by default the capital market has a big growth potential. And that has been one of the reasons why Armenia was interesting, maybe from the standpoint of GPW, because it's a growing economy with a lack of proper infrastructure there. So when you come in, you bring the know-how, knowledge, the compliance programs, etc., which makes your economy eligible in the long run for the foreign investors. Then you build it, and the foreign investors come. So our aim is to build everything to try it on Armenia, and hopefully to expand it towards the other regional economies as well, because most of the regional economies, they are interested in the inflow of foreign investors rather than the outflow of the capital. So, and our aim is to create, test, have a positive story, and try to export it to our neighboring countries, and not only not very far away neighbors with whom we might have cultural, language, and common regional kind of ties, which would help us to integrate much faster.
All right. If you build it, they will come.
Certainly, yes.
Let's end it there. Mr. Hayk Yeganyan, thanks very much for joining us today. I hope you have a good remainder of your trip to Warsaw.
Well, thank you for the invitation. It has been a pleasure.
And thank you for joining us here on World Talks of Business here on TVP World. But please stay with us here on TVP World for more news and commentary.